So that's contagion. Nothing spreads like fear, and that's what I believe this is all about, especially putting into children's minds the idea of an apocalypse, and not just an apocalypse, but a zombie apocalypse. This is the agenda, to spread fear around the globe. And look, Netflix is even helping with this agenda. Right at the beginning of the major news coverage of the corona outbreak, Netflix released a docuseries called Pandemic. So it just happened by coincidence to be scheduled right in the first week of the major news coverage of the coronavirus outbreak. And as you can see, the artwork has the biohazard image, and you can see all the little red dots showing all the infected places, just like in all the games children are playing, and in this game called Plague Inc. that is now the #1 game in the App Store, which has been played by millions of people for many, many years. It's all about spreading a contagious plague to kill off the human population. That's called Plague Inc. And that game is now top of the charts. And this now has been released by Netflix. And again, it's spreading fear. It's putting this idea into people's minds that millions of people could die, and it could be have terrifying consequences for the globe. And I'll tell you a little bit about this. Netflix has gone and freaked out its viewers by dropping a brand new pandemic docuseries amid the coronavirus outbreak. Now I'm just going to skip onto the bottom 2 lines. Dr. Dennis Carroll, in a chilling voiceover, he can be heard saying, "When we talk about another flu pandemic happening, it's not a matter of if, but when." So do you remember that line? It's not a matter of if, but when, because it was on the newspaper article related to The Walking Dead and how it's much closer than we think, and it was also on the website of I think it was Wicked Experiences, the immersive zombie experience. It's not a matter of if, but when. And now we see it being this idea being promoted on the trailer for Netflix's Pandemic documentary. So again, it's spreading fear, spreading this idea that a pandemic is about to basically take over the globe. And you have to remember this important thing, that all the games and all the movies and all the TV programs and all the books and everything connects very deeply this kind of the first step of a global viral outbreak to a zombie apocalypse. And as you've seen, this is what's being suggested to children now. A zombie apocalypse might occur, and the #1 game across the planet right now, Fortnite, is a zombie apocalypse game. The executive producer of Pandemic said, "It's uncanny and disturbing how the two have coincided." He's referring to the release of Netflix's docuseries and the coronavirus outbreak. "It's uncanny and disturbing how the two have coincided, but it's an absolute coincidence," he says. Well, if he expects us to believe that, then we are not the fools, because that is a very, very far stretch of the imagination to believe that this docuseries just happened, of all the days and of all the weeks and of all the months that it could have been released, that it was released right at the beginning of the global pandemic or the global coronavirus outbreak. And what's it all about? What's pandemic? What's the underlying message apart from fear of pandemic? It highlights the need for a universal flu vaccine. So this is health.com, one of the biggest health websites in the world, obviously with the name health.com. A universal flu vaccine could offer protection against even unknown strains. So it's propaganda. It's propaganda to sell the idea of a universal flu vaccine to the entire population. Because, of course, the coronavirus is creating a lot of fear. People are afraid, watching the news reports and seeing it spreading and seeing the number of deaths increase and seeing all these things, especially people having been conditioned with the ideas of terrible viral strains infecting the world. So people are naturally afraid, but here comes along Netflix's documentary, and the main message of it is that a universal flu vaccine would be the solution. It would solve the problem. So why don't we have one yet? So it's creating this desire. It's creating this kind of appetite for a universal flu vaccine. And then it goes on. This article goes on again. Another bit of propaganda, in my opinion, goes on to say what exactly would a universal flu shot look like. So it's getting people used to the idea of a universal flu shot. It's basically acclimatizing people to how it would be, what it would do, and of course all the benefits for their health and for their peace of mind. And of course I'm just going to skip to the bottom two lines, or the bottom line. It says, and it would be available to children, adults, and the elderly population. So essentially it would be for everyone. So the likelihood is that this would be a mandatory universal flu shot, not optional but mandatory, because if there's a pandemic spreading and you're choosing not to get vaccinated, then you are going to be highly unpopular, and you're also going to be a health threat to all the people around you. So I can very well see that this would be a mandatory universal flu shot. And guess who wins? Guess who wins in this situation? The pharmaceutical industry. Because obviously the pharmaceutical industry is a business, and it makes billions and billions worldwide. And if you look at this image, if you just ask yourself, what is the message of this image? Well, it's quite obvious. Injecting the whole world. That means injecting the whole human population. And this, I believe, is the message of pandemic. And this, I believe, is fortuitously for the pharmaceutical industry, kind of a positive effect of the whole coronavirus. The fact that this virus is spreading and people are getting afraid, it creates a desire, it creates an appetite for this universal flu shot. People are going to be eager to be vaccinated against this. So the big winner, when you consider the coronavirus outbreak, the biggest winner, it seems, would certainly be the pharmaceutical industry. Because can you imagine vaccinating 7 billion people and how much money that would make? And I won't even go into the possible consequences or the possible other reasons why they would want to vaccinate 7 billion people, because that takes things down another path. But all I can say is this. I'll say two things. First of all, it's clear to me that there is an agenda to spread fear, and that if you look at the contagion poster, which for me, when I saw it in 2011, I remember seeing it on all the buses being advertised, and everywhere. It was being advertised everywhere in London. I saw it, and the first thought I had was, this is propaganda. It really looked to me like propaganda. And, with a bit of hindsight, we can see, especially when you watch the trailer for Contagion or you've watched the film, you will see that it is almost identical to what's happening now. And the amount of fear in that film, and it's all about fear. The film is all about the spreading of fear. The tagline is "Nothing spreads like fear," and the secondary tagline for that film is "No one is immune to fear." And now, 9 years later, here you have a pandemic. No one is immune to fear. So my message would be from all of this that don't buy into the fear. Don't believe the propaganda. Don't believe anything which encourages you to be afraid. Don't trust things like Netflix's documentary on pandemic and anything that creates a fear, creates this sense of dread and wanting the pharmaceutical industry to save you from your fear. Don't trust the fearmongers. And my secondary message would be, it's quite a controversial one, but if a universal flu shot is, and I'm sure it will be released and kind of recommended for the world to accept, do not take this flu shot. Do not accept it. Do not trust that it's for your benefit. because Netflix and the people who put out messages like this, they have an agenda. And their clear agenda, as you can see in front of you, is not only to inject the whole world, but it's also to steer your mind so it thinks along certain pathways, certain fearful pathways. And so you put your sense of trust in the pharmaceutical industry. And I do not recommend putting your trust in the pharmaceutical industry. What I recommend is putting your trust in God. Because I've known God for many, many years now. I discovered God through many years of meditation, many years of spiritual investigation. So I wasn't persuaded of the existence of God by a religious text. I came to God through journeying in my consciousness and journeying spiritually. And I came to realize that God is very real. And we need God now more than ever. Because the more that fear rises, people are going to be looking for something to trust, something to put their faith in. And as you've seen, the pandemic wants you to put your faith in the pharmaceutical industry. But we need to put our faith in God. It is imperative, it is vital, it is absolutely essential now, because this is just the beginning. This whole coronavirus outbreak, this whole media frenzy about viruses spreading, and not just in the news, but also everything to do with the TV programs and the movies, and this whole idea of the zombie apocalypse. This is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the fear spreading. Now, you can make sure that you're not one of the people who allows fear to spread through you. And the best way to do this is trust in something greater than the pharmaceutical industry for a start, and something greater than yourself. God is a reality, I can assure you. And if you turn to God, if you speak to God in bed at night, when you lie down with your eyes closed, speak to God. Ask God to show you his existence. Ask God to show you his reality. Because everybody, trust me, everybody will need God in this very interesting and challenging time, when there is going to be so much fear spreading through society and being promoted in the media. We need faith. We need trust. We need faith that we don't need to put our lives in the hands of the pharmaceutical industry. And trust me, we don't want to be putting our lives in the hands of the pharmaceutical industry on an issue like this. We need to be putting our lives in the hands of God.